Why human rights are a lie. Or why the abortion debate and the gun debate raise the same issues. What seems more natural than human rights? Much of the debate over guns hinges on the idea that human life is sacred, yet not sacred enough to abort the abortion issue. The abortion debate hinges on the sacred right of the mother to bodily autonomy, but totally rejects any such right to her child. Crime is an interesting denial of all of mankind's philosophical claims about rights. One person may claim these jewels are private property and his life is sacred, and he may also claim gun ownership is not permitted and not a right. The criminal denies all of this. But then what is the abortionist doing that is different from the criminal? Mothers deny human life is sacred. In the womb it is property, and even if human it is still governed by the laws of property, meaning the owner can dispose of it at will. We ought to look at the criminal's philosophy, based on the rights of power, rather than the power of rights. In the criminal's philosophy, banks do not have an inalienable right to their banknotes. The criminal has a need for money, someone else has what the criminal needs, the criminal has access to superior power and so exercises this power to take what they want. We can argue all we wish that this is wrong, and the criminal errs in his thinking, to which he will shoot you, because you are dead, your points are invalid. It is too easy to dismiss the philosophy of a criminal, when the philosophy of the state is identical with that of the criminal. One wit remarked the state hates criminals because it is a monopoly and hates competition. The law is merely opinion codified into a regulation, but without the armed might of the justice system to back it up and enforce it, the codification remains nothing more than an opinion. The difference between the law and the lawbreaker is the amount of force they can conjure up. The criminal is a criminal because he lacks the manpower to legitimize his activity. If legitimacy in this world is predicated on the power to enforce one's opinion as to what is right, what do human rights mean? If you are powerless, you have no rights. Rights do not just give power, they are an expression of power. But what is your leverage to a power broker that permits you, as a powerless person, to have rights? More importantly, if you cannot supply your rights, how inalienable are they? Intersectionality is a tactic used to supplement the normal ration of rights as well as a way to prioritize you, in the way some companies name themselves the AAAA brand company to ensure they are listed at the top of any directory. Human rights under liberalism are vanilla rights. To have meaningful rights, one has to have intersectionality rights. But there is another reason why the human rights narrative is a lie. There is no human. To be human, one would have to possess a characteristic common to the entire class of things that are human. However, there is no human race, there are two races of beings that are human, and they diverge in a significant way, which is why there are two races. To understand this better, let's assume there is such a thing as bovine rights. These rights pertain to all creatures belonging to the bovine class of creatures. But there is a small subset of bovines picked to produce a new type of cattle. There are also cattle bred for meat and others for meat and others for replenishing the herd. One is the commonality they share other than the general physical features that define them as belonging to the class of creatures called cattle. What right can we give them, and if we give them a right, what assurance is there this right will be respected or maintained? In fact, cattle do have a natural right to be fed and watered and housed decently, or they do not tend to live or produce any increase. The right and the power are attached to what is natural. One cannot defeat natural law or the law of nature. Rarely, if ever, do we feel a need to change nature from the course it is on. The world works well as it is. If natural law exists, what are human rights? We can have nothing more than what native provides us. We cannot have a right to live beyond our 80 years and 10. If we do, this is a bonus. Our life does not come with a guarantee, and in fact the only way we can gain more of anything is by work or theft. Repartitions are like the kid who gambles, then loses and demands his money back. We all started out the same, playing the same game. Winners and losers were not foreordained. Nor did anyone cheat. No one is entitled to anything, yet people pretend to look at some objective standard and claim someone or some group offended this natural justice. The only right we have is to what we produce. No one produced nature and no one has a claim on it, but the creator of the universe, which is not the human species or any individual in it. If we have no right to anything physical, how do we have rights and what do we have a right to? Everything important is physical, beyond what we or another human created. If we have no right to what God produced and we have no right to what other humans produced, what have we a right to?